I don't know if it's that I ate too much or what I ate.
That was and you're giving me a hard time for not eating the French fries.
I would have eaten those French fries. They were good.
Really?
I was impressed with the French fries.
You should have eaten them.
No. I don't know if I ate too much or it's what I ate. But man, oh man.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the chips.
Hey, and I tell you what, we went to lunch, but they put on a nice spread down there. That was pretty cool. I mean, did you go look at it?
What are we doing here?
I don't know. What are we doing here? So you wanted to talk about what? What is it? Tell me about the ML350.
Mercedes didn't have a transmission for it. You couldn't get it from a rebuilder. Just no availability. They're like, oh, we don't have that transmission any longer. We don't make it. So what do you do?
I don't know. I mean, what do you do?
You throw in a used one. That's what you do.
Is that what you're doing?
We'll see. Well, that's what we quoted out. We'll see.
I have very much found myself doing similar things here recently. The options are gone on.
Yeah.
And so my question becomes, are we going to get to the point that a lot of these cars are just going to have to go to the scrapper? I mean, is it going to push these cars out of...
No. You're just going to find more creative ways to repair them. You can't take a transmission, the 729, whatever. You can't take that transmission out of a whatever and throw it in and have it work. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
Like you gotta do some hackery.
Yeah, there definitely is. But I mean, I guess
with some sketchy tooling, sketchy Chinese tooling.
But I mean, that's my point. Is this eventually going to push those cars out of the market? Are we going to see obsolescence? And is it planned obsolescence? Do you think it's planned obsolescence?
I think it's planned from the manufacturer. It makes sense. Like that guy has no business driving around a 264,000 mile ML350. Those mid 2000s Mercedes were tanky AF.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, look at the Camry, right? We always see, or was it the Corolla that you see the meme?
The meme's the Camry, but the Corolla's a more accurate. Hi. What's that?
It's Boyd.
Who?
Boyd.
How do you know everybody?
I don't know everybody.
You know everybody. We haven't walked by a single person. We were talking smack on that one vendor, and the vendor was sitting on the end, and you knew who it was.
Hey, I don't know if you've noticed this, but you probably had a mouse in your pocket because I wasn't talking smack on anybody. I think folks are kind of used to that by now. You're constantly talking smack, though. That's cool. It's all right. It's all right.
Don't talk smack. What are you talking about?
It's a pretty cool. I think the facility is really cool.
Yeah, this is great. You know, once you close that door, it's super quiet in here, other than the AC.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind the noise. It doesn't really bother me too much.
I'm just saying.
In a beautiful town, dude.
That sounds okay.
Okay, the scenery is nice.
The scenery is very nice, yes.
I mean,
The scenery is very nice. It reminds me of Denver. I'm telling you, this is Denver before the legalization.
Denver before the legalization of what?
That was the potheads. They ruined Denver. You can't.
How do potheads ruin Denver? There were potheads in Denver before.
I know, but they stayed at home. Then they decided we're not going to stay at home. We're going to converge down to the center of the city and sleep on the streets and harass people as they walk down the street, see if they have any money or food.
I've got to ask, do you know any potheads?
Just the ones in Denver.
No, I mean, like, do you actually know any potheads? I don't think that's what potheads do.
That's what these potheads did.
That that's not a standard pothead thing.
Is it a certain special type of pothead?
No, that is a full-blown addict. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
no, I don't.
That is not the pothead.
It may be addicts now. That's completely filled up Denver. My wife works with a lady. She works the Fed is downtown in Denver, like in the middle of the city.
Okay.
This lady was waiting for, I think she was waiting for a bus or something like that. Anyway, she's just standing there. Mm-hmm. And this homeless dude just attacks her, comes after her. She was like, she said she was never more scared for her life. And now she's all freaked out and she's like afraid. And when my wife went down there for work, I'm like, hey, you need to be careful. Like, she doesn't carry or whatever. Like, and I'm like, hey, maybe you should start carrying. And I have no idea whether Colorado is a constitutional carry state, but I'm just saying, like, I was afraid for her to walk from the hotel, which is like maybe a quarter mile, to her work. I was afraid for her. Like, she's walking through these streets and we have incidents on camera, and that was the other one. They had video of one that had just happened a few days before she went out there, where this like rando decides to attack this woman coming out of a restaurant.
You know, I think you've got to take each situation like that with a grain of salt, and it's interesting. And you know, I know some shops that are in bad areas, right?
We don't have a guest here. You don't have to circle back to the automotive thing.
No, I wasn't. I'm just saying, like, I know some shops that are in bad areas, and they have to, like Leslie that works for Advance. Like she's got spots. She has to be really careful where she goes.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting about that is that, you know, I've talked to my wife quite a bit about it, and she said, you know, you're a big dude. You have a presence when you walk in a room. You know what I mean? I'm a smaller woman, right? And so people look at me differently than they look at you.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I think we overlook sometimes when we're thinking about this. Like, it doesn't bother me. You know, a while back I walked through the middle of Minneapolis at like 1 a.m.
Yeah, you're nuts.
But I'm just saying, like, it doesn't, stuff like
this
that.
This is mid-protest
Yeah.
season.
Yeah. It was dead in the middle of it. And I just walked right through the middle of them, smiled and waved. But I mean, I guess my point is that
I'm saying that you do that enough times, though, something bad is going to happen.
Yeah, I'm sure. But
so you don't tempt fate.
My point is it's less likely
to happen to you. Yeah.
Right. And people
like that, I wouldn't have been okay with my wife doing that. Like that would be
right. And people look at a woman as vulnerable, and they have other intentions aside from right. Clearly they don't look at me and have those intentions. At least I hope not.
Lucas, we live in a new world. You can't make those kind of assumptions.
Yeah. It does feel like a new world now, doesn't it? What changed?
What's that?
What changed?
We were talking about it in the car. You know what changed.
I know what you think changed. What changed?
That is what changed. You just keep kicking the can down the road, dude. You just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Eventually, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's something is never enough. It just keeps people think, well, okay, we're just going to allow this one thing. It'll be fine. And it's like, well, it's not doing any harm. It's not that that one thing may not do harm, but as a collective and everything in totality pushes all of society down to a level of degradation that then ultimately leads to collapse. And then we're all zombies running through the streets trying to steal each other's foods. Foods.
Man, I tell you. So it makes me think about things I've done, and not to try and take it back to automotive and offend you and get you away from your political discussion. But
no, I could try to keep it ambiguous.
It makes me think a little bit about things I've done in the shop, right? And like where I've let things slide. And you remember the
yes, see exactly. So how you didn't get it in the car, but you just got it now. Like it's the exact same thing.
No, I got it in the car.
Well, you were arguing with me.
That's what we do.
Yeah, you were arguing in a sense of no, I think you're wrong. Not just I'm going to poke the bear. That's you. You took it there. No, you took it there.
I have no interest in poking the bear.
That's not true. He loves poking this bear.
Oh no, man! Jump in, come on.
He stepped in at the wrong possible time. Hold on. Did you see? You don't watch basketball. You a basketball fan?
Right now, the playoffs. I was watching it's Philadelphia.
So the guys on TNT. There's 4 guys on TNT. Yeah, there's 4 guys on TNT, and they've been together for so long. They have this chemistry, and they're easily the best and most popular NBA commentators on television. That no other like channel can replicate what they have because they've been doing it so long together. And Charles Barkley started saying when guys are banging on you and they're banging you down and everybody freezes. This is middle. And everybody stops, and then they start just laughing, and he's trying to make this point about how once you get down low and you're trying to get physical and you have guys just beating on you and whatever, like trying to rebound and stuff like that. He's trying to make this point, and he stops, and you guys are dirty, all of you.
Adjust Lester's camera. Lester, what's up?
He's like, I wish I hadn't come in this particular moment. How am I going to explain this to corporate?
No.
How's it going, guys?
Good. All right. Cool. Give me one more mic check, Lester.
Check. Microphone check.
That's good.
Cool.
All right.
Cool.
Did you know that your episode that you did with us was one of our most, what is number 2?
Yeah.
Number two all-time most popular episode.
Yeah.
And what we want to know is, did you get a lot of flack from corporate off that?
Believe it or not, I have yet to this day received any feedback from anybody at Dorman.
That's because they weren't listening. Good.
But I have to thank you because obviously my perception or what happened was that nobody who didn't like us reached out to me, so that was good.
Right.
But I had a lot of detractors and individuals who thought of us in a certain way that thanked me for kind of
Getting on the hot seat.
owning up,
Yeah.
owning up to some issues, and then furthermore, there were a couple of individuals that had reached out to me afterwards when they had issues I was able to resolve. I just feel like them listening to the approach that we take and then seeing it in action, understanding that we're all in this together. And in order for the aftermarket to thrive and to grow, we have to rely on everybody, right? The manufacturers, the parts distributors, jobbers, and technicians. So.
Well, and I think David and I both had a very, very different respect and approach for you guys after that episode, and A, getting to meet you and see what you guys do, but B, like I've seen more and more. I called you the other day over that control arm, and like what I thought was really interesting is that the parts store was throwing you guys under the bus, and they're like, hey, this is them, this is them, this is them. Turns out it wasn't you. It was all 100% them. And like we had a suspicion. That's the only reason I reached out is because like I'm over here, they're saying this. Like if it was once, I might, but it was part after part after part with all these different things. No, man, they weren't ordering the parts, or they were doing something crazy. So I think that, and it kind of comes back to that, we know what that's like because dealers throw us under the bus a lot. Or a shop down the road throws us under the bus. It just seems like it's a dog-eat-dog world anymore,
Well, I really one of the reasons I wanted to get you on here is that I've noticed a far fewer dunking on Dorman sessions than in the past.
Yeah, it is substantially reduced, especially in ASOG. You don't see it anymore.
Yeah, well, I've seen it in the technician groups too. For example, we saw you at SEMA and at Apex, and we talked about the oil cooler for the 3.6, and they ran out with Chrysler, stopped making them or whatever. They couldn't get any. Everybody started jumping. Hey, I used the Dorman unit. It worked really well. Yeah. Everybody's just going.
Yeah. And before, like, you would be attacked if you did that. Like,
you would have just been like grilled.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing that trend increase on one side, but I also, for me, I guess, I'm overly critical and always focused on how do we keep getting better, because there's obviously people out there that are still of the other mindset. And I saw a post last week, and essentially the sentiment that everybody got on was that and they also said other manufacturers just let the technicians beta test our parts. And to me, being the manufacturer, I have to always take the high road. But it's like it just upsets me that obviously our quality was in some way, shape, or form that bad to that particular individual, that they really think that a manufacturer would send a part out there with little or no testing, that we want the technician to be the actual beta tester. So I do like it when I see all the positive all the positive comments, but I'm still really focused on not changing the mind of the detractors, because their mind could have been right at that point in time, to get them to understand what we really put into quality control, and that when we do hear about it, that we want to correct it. And the other thing that I just thought about really quick, and then the other perception that, one of the challenges of, we just leave bad parts out in the field. You don't do anything about it. So really quick, we can't reach out directly unless it's a safety recall, which doesn't happen that often, to the end user and say, hey, return part number 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's a safety defect, right? Yeah. Steering. And when it has happened in the past, we had a couple on steering shafts. That's what it actually goes through NHTSA, even with an aftermarket part.
Right.
And so when there's other issues with parts where you can still install it, but there's something off with it, and it's only a small percentage of the parts and it's not safety critical, we do what's called a return for inspection. And we have some customers that have 8,000 store chains, and we can't manage the message of how our customers tell the satellite stores.
Right.
So we have people out there that have a lot of influence. I've tried to explain that to, but basically just said, you leave your garbage parts out there and don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like last time when we talked about the phenomena of, I forget what you call them, David, shit posters, right?
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of people out there that I feel like just post things to post them, but don't realize, that the phenomenon we talked about last time is that the message doesn't get back to the manufacturer to actually do anything about it. It was the same thing in this case, the perception that we beta test our parts, or let technicians beta test our parts, and then B, don't care about bringing them back.
Right.
I mean, we have a whole team that reviews that, looks at quality indicators. And again, let's say if there's a hole that has to be drilled 20% of the time, we're going to send a communication out asking our customers to pull the part off the shelf. Usually we can look at date codes and things like that. So I really appreciate the fact that you recognize that we're seeing some more positive comments, but I think, me being, a lifer at Dorman Products, been there for 18 years, I want to keep continuing and focusing to make sure that they know that we do care and we're going to make mistakes, and to be kind of part of that solution so we can fix it.
It comes down to like a messaging issue, though, because a lot of manufacturers don't put any time and effort into making sure they're on the forums, that they're talking to the end user. I don't know anybody who off the top of your head, who can you think of? Autel, like George Lesniak, he'll get on there and he will straight up argue with somebody about their ADAS machine.
And there's a couple there's that I know of. There's no part manufacturer, right? And I think the big thing was you were
I think Dorman's it. I don't know of any. I cannot think of one.
I think the fact you were willing to come on and answer the questions and be real about it, like no BS. Hey, here's what's going on. And I think it creates a human image to Dorman. It creates a human image to the organization as a whole.
Yeah, you put a name and face to it.
Right.
It's no longer the big nameless, faceless corporation.
Yeah. And I think that happens a lot. Right. And it doesn't just happen in the automotive world. It happens all over the place. But I think we see a lot of folks who look at this and they feel like it's the part company, it's the tool company, it's this, that, or the other. No, man, we really all are trying to do the best. I mean, why wouldn't Dorman want to do the best they could do? It's not about putting out a poor quality product and getting the most money you can get, because you eventually run yourself out of business if you do that, right? You wouldn't be able to make that sustainable.
Yeah. I mean, my main responsibility, it's morphed into kind of jack of all trades, master of none, is to bring new ideas and relationships into the organization to help grow that. And early on, year 2, year 3, even then, you're talking probably year 4, 2007. I found myself getting involved in a lot of technical training for awareness at the part level, not at the install level, but then also quality control. And, leaders I had throughout the years didn't have a big problem with that, other than, hey, if you're working on new ideas, how does the quality control piece fit? And I said, it's simple. If the technicians aren't confident that we're going to take care of them when something happens, they're not going to keep giving us new ideas. So it's one of those things where it really works hand in hand. And then 2019, late 18 was our first foray into actual training, partnering with TST and Jerry Trulia, and actually opened us up to the Facebook forums and a whole nother group of technicians
Right.
at the next level. Honestly, at first I was pretty shocked because I didn't have access to the information that, you hear names like, obviously G, Bernie Thompson, Brandon Steckler, all those guys and gals that have been around forever, really have a great reputation of what they really thought of our product. So it actually encouraged our team to kind of step up our game, to engage them, be on social media. And like you said, it doesn't help us to not address the issues because we're in it for the long haul. So.
Right. So when we talk about part issues and we talk about everything that's going on right now, what's the message that you would want everybody to know? I mean, what's the insider intel? Right now we can't get parts hardly anywhere, right?
Yeah, what are you guys doing with that?
Yeah, I mean,
it's definitely getting better. I mean, we're basically, one of the things, it's no secret you're looking at sourcing in different areas. We've always been very diverse with sourcing. It was never just always China. We've always, even before COVID, U.S., India, Turkey, all Vietnam, Taiwan, or different areas. And I think the difference now is that we're finally getting where we have all the supply chain issues from basically being closed for a year and a half.
Yeah.
I feel like we finally see the light at the end of the tunnel there, and we're getting better. But I still think it's going to be another year or 18 months of kind of having these fill rates that are substandard, just based on everything else that's going on.
right. Well, I mean, and you guys are weathering the storm a lot better than others. I've been talking to friends at dealers who are saying like we're primarily using Dorman parts for our OE. Like they're using the Dorman oil cooler we were just talking about at the dealer I know, and so that says a lot. But the fact y'all have weathered it better, why do you think Dorman weathered that shortage storm better than the dealers have?
Well, I'm obviously biased. I feel like that the whole innovation or that whole culture or mindset. This is probably going to get bashed later on. But it doesn't just end in product management. It's in supply chain. So we literally overbought. So you look at our typical forecast. You look in like 3-month buckets with your safety stock. So leadership basically gave the approval to make the investment to buy 3 or 4 times, realizing what was going on. So I think that's really helped us. But even because of that, we've had issues because it was hard for us to anticipate the amount of dealer shortages. There were parts that we never had supply issues on that just poof because the dealer and everyone else are just buying those parts because we're the only ones that have them. So that's caused other issues too, because now our whole demand planning system has to kind of redigest it and then spit out new numbers. So what we thought we were purchasing excess of is really probably just in line now with the increased demand.
Well, it's interesting. We were talking to somebody the other day about an event, and they said that they had this algorithm to help them plan for the food, right? And they had it nailed down to this science. And they said after COVID, that science is no longer accurate. It doesn't work anymore. It something that used to be within 1 or 2 points is now like way off, and it changed the whole dynamic, and people were acting completely differently. And I don't think, we've given much thought to that as a society, that people have changed their behavior based upon what's happened over the last 2 years.
COVID screwed everything up. You're seeing posts of people buying parts from the dealer.
And they're coming
They show up Dorman box, and then he's like, "What the crap is this?"
Yeah, I'm paying the original dealer price.
Oh yeah, they're buying, and they bill out the OE number, and the Dorman box shows up. Like, what the hell do I do with this?
I would much rather just buy it from Dorman.
Yeah, just get it
on a warranty. The dealer won't warranty their parts.
No, they won't.
That's insane, right?
The other 2 interesting things, though, that I don't think are ever